The grand palace of Xylarian floated atop the cliffs of the jagged planet Tharkor, a spectacle of iridescent towers that shimmered like liquid crystal under the twin suns. Only the most privileged of beings ever set foot within its chambers or dared approach the legendary Empress Lyriath herself. Her reputation preceded her, a ruler of unmatched beauty, intelligence, and ruthlessness. Yet on this particular day, Lyriath's glory met with an absurd mishap. It began in the highest gallery of the palace, the observation wing where visitors could admire the twin suns setting over Tharkor's violet seas. Lyriath, her hair cascading in an impossible cascade of silver and amethyst that shimmered like starlight, leaned over the railing to catch the last rays of the dying suns. She was alone, pondering the next conquest of her empire, when, snap, a section of her hair became ensnared in the delicate, intricate lattice of the railing. Her scream echoed through the hall, not of fear, but of indignation. Any ordinary servant would have fled. Any ordinary guard would have hesitated, fearful of touching the Empress in such a delicate and embarrassing situation. But the palace, despite its opulence, had one unlikely constant: Jorik, the janitor. Jorik was no ordinary janitor. A small, wiry man with an unassuming presence, he had spent decades sweeping floors and polishing the impossible heights of the palace's crystal spires. Nobody paid him much mind, but Jorik had seen things others never would. Secret passageways, coded messages etched in the walls, and the hidden vulnerabilities of even the most feared creatures in the universe. That day, Jorik was pushing a mop bucket down the marble corridor when he heard the cry. He looked up, and there it was, the Empress, shimmering in her royal regalia, her massive hair hopelessly entangled in the railing above the observation deck. Guards milled about in panic, unsure whether to cut the hair and risk offending her, or attempt a rescue and risk the wrath of her temper. Without hesitation, Jorik set down the mop and stepped forward. "Excuse me, Your Majesty," he said in his quiet, respectful tone. "I think I can help." Lyriath glared down at him, her violet eyes narrowing. "You, the janitor? Do you even know what you're touching?" Jorik raised his hands. "I've been cleaning these halls for 33 years, Your Majesty. I know every surface, every corner, and every railing. Trust me." For a moment, the Empress hesitated. She was used to a world where everyone cowered before her, where the smallest gesture of bravery or stupidity was punished. Yet here was a man with neither fear nor ambition, simply resolve. There was something disarming about that. "Very well," she said, her voice a mix of annoyance and curiosity. "But be careful. One wrong move and you will regret it for the rest of your life." Jorik nodded, and without a hint of hesitation, he climbed the small service ladder that led to the railing. The tangled mass of hair glinted under the twin suns, a silken prison. Carefully, he examined the entanglement. There were tiny hooks in the railing, crafted to hold ceremonial banners, but clearly not designed for the sheer weight of Lyriath's hair. One wrong tug could snap it, or worse, anger the Empress further. He breathed steadily, remembering something he'd read once in a dusty maintenance manual about stress points in synthetic alloys. With delicate precision, he began loosening the strands one by one, using a pair of fine tweezers he always kept in his utility belt for delicate repairs. The Empress watched, her pride wrestling with growing admiration. She had seen countless diplomats, generals, and spies fail in simpler tasks. And yet here was Jorik, a mere janitor, handling the impossible with calm assurance. "Be careful with the silver strands," she warned, her voice softening slightly. "They were harvested from the luminous spires of Calathis. They respond to touch." Jorik nodded again, feeling the subtle hum of energy running through the hair as he worked. He had encountered bioluminescent plants and creatures before, but never living strands of hair. It pulsed faintly, almost as if aware of his presence. Half an hour passed. The guards had grown restless, pacing and whispering among themselves. Lyriath, meanwhile, had begun to lower her defenses. She watched the janitor's patient, unassuming hands free the last strands of her tangled hair. And then, with a final deft maneuver, Jorik freed her. Lyriath gasped, not from fear, but relief. Her hair fell in a shimmering waterfall around her shoulders, perfectly intact. She looked down at Jorik, who stood with a humble bow, sweat beading on his brow. You did it," she said, awe creeping into her voice. "I thought no one in this palace could handle that." Not even my advisors, my generals. Jorik shrugged, a small smile on his face. Sometimes, Your Majesty, it just takes someone willing to get their hands dirty. For a moment, silence fell. Then Lyriath laughed, a rare, crystalline sound that echoed through the gallery. You are unusual, Jorik. Most would die of fear or arrogance long before they dared touch the Empress of Xylarian. I'm not most people, he replied, his eyes twinkling. I just sweep floors and fix railings. Lucky for you, that's exactly what you needed today. Something changed in Lyriath's gaze. She had always ruled through fear and awe, but here was a human showing courage without the desire for power or reward. Perhaps she could learn something from him. Or perhaps, more dangerously, she might trust him. Jorik, she said finally, you will have a place in my palace, not as a janitor, but as someone I can count on. The guards nearly fainted. The Empress had never offered such a thing to a commoner. Jorik simply bowed. I am honored, Your Majesty. And so began an unlikely alliance. Jorik became Lyriath's secret aide, the only one privy to both the grandeur and vulnerabilities of the Xylarian Empire. He cleaned and repaired not just the palace, but the cracks in the Empress's trust, something her generals had failed to do for decades. Rumors spread throughout the empire of the day the Empress's hair was trapped, and how a janitor saved her. Many laughed, thinking it a story unworthy of attention, but those who understood power, the spies, the diplomats, and even rival rulers, watched closely. They knew that sometimes the smallest, most unexpected heroes were the ones who shaped destinies. Lyriath herself never forgot that day. Whenever she wore her hair in ceremonial glory, she remembered the janitor who had faced the impossible without fear or ambition. And though she would never admit it openly, a part of her heart trusted him more than anyone else in the Empire. Jorik, meanwhile, returned to his mop and bucket, quietly content. He had done what he was meant to do, not seek glory, not crave recognition, but meet a challenge with skill, patience, and a steady hand. And somewhere in the shimmering towers of Xylarian, the Empress's hair flowed freely once more. A reminder that even in the grandest palaces of the galaxy, sometimes it takes an ordinary soul to save the extraordinary.